Welcome to Mental Health First Aid. My name is Barry Gresh, I'm the host of the show, and we've been doing a lot of different shows getting into the mental health first aid curriculum, talking about the different episodes that we have, the different programs that we have for it. But we have a special guest today, and it's under the eating disorder portion of the mental health first aid. We have Dr. Maria Rago here, and she has written a book, and we're going to talk about that book. It's called Shut Up, Skinny Bitches. Now, the title will wake you up right away, and it's just an interesting title, and it caught my attention, and I'm going, what is that all about? Maria, where was the idea behind the book?
Well, I'm the clinical director of the eating disorder program at Linden Oaks, which I've been for about 10 years, and I've worked with eating disorders at least the last 20 years. So one day, one of my patients came in, and she used to be doing well in treatment, then all of a sudden she was not doing well at all, and she was angry, not listening, and I was like, what is wrong? And she pulled out a little book, and it was called Skinny Bitch. And somehow this thing was a New York Times bestseller.
Oh, boy.
And I thought, I better read it and see what's going on.
Right.
And it was not only, I thought, bad advice for people, like don't eat meat, don't drink milk. If you do, this is very bad for you, which again, I don't believe that's good nutrition advice.
Right.
And then people were being spoken to in such a rude way. And
So the demeanor of the book was just sort of a
it was
in your
really
face?
rude. It was like, I think I wrote in my book that, like, you know how maybe sailors would have a reputation for swearing
Yes, I've
back in
seen
the
that.
day?
Yeah, I've seen
It
that.
was like sailors would have nothing on the swear words that are in this book. So,
Right.
and it was like all in the name of superiority. Like, well, we're thin, so we're better than other people, so we can talk down to them, and people will still tolerate it.
Well, an eating disorder is like, it's a control thing for the person, right?
Yeah, there's so many
So
different.
it's total control or whatever?
Well,
that-
there's so many facets to eating disorders. I think if you interviewed 100 people why they had an eating disorder, it would be so different for each one. But there's two aspects. There's the underlying emotional issues that people want to numb out or get away from. Then there's also food, weight, and body image issues. So they're somewhat intertwined, especially people that have been teased for their weight or they've been told to lose weight, especially as children.
Right.
This is where you get a lot of males.
And that's what I was saying with the control part. If they can control what goes into their body, and they can say yes or no to this. And sort of sense that book, the way it was written, it was like they're in control, and they're telling you what to do, and they're what's
True.
going on.
And
you
I
know?
thought it was a great metaphor for what's going on, in my opinion, in our culture right now, which is there is a superiority of thinness. And it's like, wow, thinness equals health, it equals beauty, it equals success.
Oh, huge.
And so since most of the country is not thin,
Right.
that leaves many people feeling really bad about themselves.
Right.
And it's kind of a metaphor for the way people are treated based on their weight. So that's kind of what I wanted to address. So Skinny Bitches really started out with, since two women wrote Skinny Bitch, it was like, shut up, skinny bitches, because that's what I was thinking when I was
Right,
reading it.
right.
But also it was the whole health police culture that has to look in your window and see if you ate Cheetos or ice cream, and then...
What do you mean by the health police? What do you I mean? Like the doctors or the counselors or the
it's very,
radio shows?
yes,
or?
it's very well-meaning, you know, physicians and health educators and
Because all we all hear
teachers,
about is
parents.
we're an overeating society, we're obese, we're this, we hear that constantly.
Yes, and so what the problem is that people don't know what to do about it, and the only thing we've come up with as healthcare professionals is we're supposed to seek out the obese people and seek out the children that are obese and inform them and their families that they're obese.
Right.
So then once you inform
Very
them,
negative, very-
but also what is the benefit of it? Because if you look at research, some of my favorite research is the Project EAT studies that come out of University of Minnesota, and they showed that children who thought they were overweight, who worried about their weight, and who weighed themselves, they gained 20 more pounds than other children
'Cause they're
across
always
their
thinking about it,
adolescence. Yeah, and also whenever you deny your hunger, hunger is a biological drive, just like sleep, going to the bathroom, breathing, anything you need to do.
Right.
But because hunger is, you can delay it longer than some of the other biological drives, we feel that it's our choice and we're in control of it. So most of the kids in the Project EAT study, they develop binge eating problems.
So they would eat a lot and then say, okay, I won't do it again, I'll just eat a lot now.
It starts with really the restricting because maybe they weren't even overeaters to start with. Maybe they just didn't get enough physical activity,
Right.
or you know, they didn't get enough fruits and vegetables in their diets. So They were,
Well-rounded.
and you know, some kids are not even very overweight, or they're a little overweight, and then they get targeted by the health police, which I call, and then they get told they're overweight, so they need to start watching it. Then when they start watching it, they gain 20 pounds. So I don't see the value of it.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's a sort of unique because I was reading your book and I was really interested closely in it because I was diagnosed with diabetes a couple years ago, and I'm the carb police a little bit with, and you know what? But there's a huge payoff for me. I lost the 50 pounds. It's been off. My tests are great. I don't have to check my blood anymore. I don't have to take metformin anymore. You know what I mean? It was a big payoff for me, and I have so much more. The taste of food is so much better now.
Yeah.
And I try all different foods now. You know, before I was just, you know, you'd have something, or it says sugar-free or anything, it tastes like cardboard. I don't want no part of it. Now it tastes very sweet. It's very good. You know what I mean?
That's awesome that you found a way. I think each person finds their own individual way, and it's not like a cookie cutter, like
Right.
each person needs to do this. There's a lot of children with diabetes that also develop binge eating disorder because, you know, for you as an adult, it was your choice when you were
50
ready
years
to
old.
do that.
Right.
But children, when it's imposed on them, it's pretty natural for any kid that gets dieting imposed on them because they're I don't know if you could understand like how upset they are to not be able to have other foods that other kids are eating. And so it's not uncommon for kids to hoard food and hide
Right.
it under their bed and binge on it and eat it. And the sadness and the trauma it really is to not be able to enjoy foods.
Right, right. So you can see a lot of things. Do you think, I mean, doing this now, working for eating disorder and understanding these things and researching and looking into this really closely, is there an average or a norm weight for a person?
Well, that's a
Not,
great
not
point.
you know, like, okay, you're this height, you're this, you know what I mean? They give you those and you go, I was supposed to be at 160 or 180 or something for my height, and it was like,
That's
you're
a
kidding.
big part of the problem because who is defined by the health police as overweight are so many people that really their health is better if they just leave their weight where it is.
Right.
But when they're told by their doctor and shamed into it by their family and guilted, and again, my heart always goes out to the kids because kids, when they get targeted and they start being told they're obese or they're overweight,
Right.
you know, many of them, they're not even.
You're planting seeds.
And
with
that,
us,
and
they
then
remember
it's
that.
hurting their, you know, and really the literature shows they're not going to lose weight, but they will lose self-esteem. They will develop depression, anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, all from, you know, too much emphasis
Right.
and not having balance in their life.
And there's even an equation or something they use, isn't there?
The
see if you-
BMI,
Yeah,
the
they-
BMI equation. It's a lot of fun lately, you know, debunking that myth of the BMI and how it's not very valuable.
Yeah, yeah. I tell you what, I looked into that and through teaching it through mental health first aid, the eating disorder portion, and we're going to talk more about that when we come back. We have lots we're going to discuss with this, and what's your average weight? What you should be at? Is there such a thing? You know, just so much more information with this. Come back and watch us soon. We're in a couple minutes here. Thank you.
It begins innocently enough. You don't return a phone call. You break a date at the last minute. But in fact, it's the beginning of a pattern. And soon, your friend with mental illness realizes you're avoiding them. But what if you knew that your friendship was the key to their recovery? Would you still lock them out of your life? Everyone has friends. There's online friends, friends to go out with on a Saturday night, friends to hang out with and do nothing, friends who show up on moving day. And then there are the friends who'll be there if someone is dealing with a mental illness. Are you one of those friends?
I remember how much you said you liked wine. Oh.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you.
Welcome back to Mental Health First Aid. We're here talking to Dr. Maria Rego about eating disorders, and she has a book that she's written called Shut Up Skinny Bitches. And it's in your face type of book, and we wanted to ask her some more questions about the book itself. But I also wanted to get back to the BMI we were talking about, and if there's an average or a normal weight for a person that is good for them. How do they know what that weight is?
Well, you know, the they is the problem. I mean, I think
Yeah.
there's so many different people that are going to tell you what's okay for you, but what's more important is for you to know what's okay for you. And if you have a stable lifestyle that includes high levels of physical activity,
Right.
make sure you're getting fruits, vegetables, make sure you're getting proteins, fats, and carbs throughout your day. And what some of the guides we like to use is eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full.
Right. I read that in the book.
Yeah,
You say about when you feel comfortable at it, and you'll learn how to do that, and it's an educated process.
Because everybody's born with knowing when to
Mm-hmm.
eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full, and eat what you have taste preferences for. There's a lot of research that shows that what you're in the mood for is something your body actually needs. There were some recent
Really?
studies. Yes, women are known for craving chocolate around the time of their menstrual cycle,
Uh-huh.
and they always, you always feel guilty for this, like, oh, I shouldn't be having chocolate, but I really want some. And then they just found out that chocolate has some kind of properties that your body can chemically use to soothe the symptoms of PMS.
Wow, that's wild.
So your body, if you can learn to listen to your body again, instead of, maybe you read 5,000 magazines and saw news reports of what you're supposed to do, and instead if you can follow your body again, that is a very empowering tool, and so therefore your body becomes stable. Many people with food and body image concerns have very unstable weights. They fluctuate a lot because they eat out of guilt, and then they don't eat out of guilt, and then, remember I mentioned the Project EAT studies.
Right.
They found that kids who diet, especially boys, do not have the energy for physical activity.
They're just tired couch potatoes then, or
because
whatever.
you don't have the, if
Right.
you want to work out, you need some energy to use to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But people are told, no, work out, but don't eat that much because you're supposed to lose weight. And
Right.
so especially the boys, they were not able to do much physical activity when they were dieting. And what a shame that is.
Right.
They're trying to improve
Part of the
their
vicious
health.
cycle, yeah.
They're trying to improve their health. They won't improve their health at all because you have to eat to improve your health.
I remember specifically as a younger person in high school and stuff, being too skinny and feeling too skinny, and would literally eat that weight gain stuff and try to gain weight and get there. And then I gained the weight, and I felt, being a police officer, you felt you had a little power behind you if you needed it. So I had the extra weight. So I really wasn't interested in losing any weight, but because of the problems or whatever with the diabetes, was forced to. Now, when I did that and talked to the nutritionist and looked into it, some of the stuff I was eating, wow. I mean, I'm not kidding you. After high school, I'd go to the store, get 5, 6, 7 full-size candy bars, eat them all, down a Coke with it, and that would be my snack. You know what I mean? So it was like but I still kept skinny.
Yeah.
With that.
But maybe your health wasn't the best because of what you were eating, but that's
How about
why...
a little hyper?
Yeah, and the health police assumes that everyone thin is in good health.
Yeah.
And you have to use internal indicators
Right.
to know your health. You can't just use weight, and people are overusing weight, and they're not looking at anything else, and they're making assumptions on people's health based only on their weight.
Right. I just learned so much about food doing this, and it was a real awakening, and going to classes I was on a 27-year program with the NIU, so taking classes for a long time, and it was really interesting that I learned so much about food and what it would do and how it would help you, and learned a lot through your book, too,
Thank
to
you.
lighten up a little bit. Because I'm sort of known as the carb police now, for my wife and stuff. But she's really proud of me what I've been able to do and to stay the weight in 2 years, no problems, especially, like I said, the payoff of no medication or checks and
Absolutely.
stuff.
Well, what's really nice is that when people find a good relationship with food that's individual for them,
Right.
and they find a stable lifestyle and a stable body image, their happiness can go skyrocketing.
Right.
How much better they can feel.
With the book we were looking at, and I was just reading this, what was it geared to? What age?
Well, we're hoping that adults and teens will both feel comfortable reading it.
Because, I was reading it, I'm just going, whoa. In one portion of it, it said, shut up and shut your pie holes. And, I'm just going, shut your pie, what's going on? Wow. Yeah. But that's what kids listen to, right? That's what younger adults, that's their language.
I guess it's my Adam Sandler, Chris Farley side.
Yeah,
That's probably where I learned the word pie hole from Chris Farley.
Is that what it is? Okay. I had to ask my wife, I says, what does that mean exactly? That's where you put your pie, isn't it? I says, oh, okay, I get it, yeah. I felt sort of, dumb with that. You had a partner that wrote the book with a partner. What's his name?
Greg Archer.
Now,
And
it's a friend of yours.
Greg and I went to high school together,
Yeah.
and he became we were very good friends, and he became a writer, and I became a psychologist. And actually, he started, when we were catching up one day, he said, I want to start writing about some of the things that you're doing.
He's a trainer too, right? Personal
Yes,
trainer?
he is. Yes, and he's a spin instructor.
Yeah.
In particular. And
Talk
Zumba
about that.
too, yeah.
How do you write a book together? Do you, okay, I'll do this chapter, you do that chapter, I'll do this paragraph, you do that paragraph?
Well, you know, you were talking about control, and I'm much of a control freak, especially when it comes to this information.
Yes.
So I don't think it was easy for him to deal with me. But then again, it wasn't always easy to deal with him because he's an editor, so it's always deadlines. And I mean, thank
okay.
God I had that, but I did not always enjoy
So
it.
the voice is both of yours, but you sort of over.
I mean, just because I'm the content expert.
So it's
then
your voice.
It's a lot of it is mine. So poor Greg, it's not, like I said, it wasn't easy to deal with me, but I have to say
He's had a
insisted
ton of work
on that
into it,
cover,
too. Yeah.
and he had great, you know, I mean, it's totally our collaboration
Right.
Of his humor and his ideas also. So,
Right, right.
especially as a male, you know, I was going to say what you were saying earlier about being a boy and growing up and wanting to gain weight. Boys do struggle with, you know, with what is expected of a boy's body. You're supposed to be big, but you're supposed to be lean, but you're not, you know, you're supposed to have low body fat.
Right.
And they even call something bigorexia now, that these boys who
Really?
are underweight or they're average weight, but they have this image of themselves, how big they're supposed to be. But it's hard for them because, like I said, they're supposed to be big, but they can't be fat.
Right.
So it's totally confusing. And I believe our culture is changing too. In 2006, a study of 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade boys and girls showed 50% of boys and girls were not comfortable with their weight. They were afraid to be overweight, and they wanted to lose weight. So
You know, when I
it's
was
evening out quite a bit. I think the
Right.
media is in boys' faces now too. A lot of Abercrombie ads, not to single
Yes.
out that company, but
Yes.
you know, the Gap, all the companies
Right.
are putting these ads out for fashion, and now you're seeing males without their shirts on and what you're supposed to look like as
Yes.
a boy.
Six
and then
packs.
you can really feel
Right.
inadequate. And I think especially, you know, so if you look at it, so many people in the culture are triggered to diet by the media. But then, if you have something inside you, like maybe some traumas you've been through, or grief issues you haven't
Right.
resolved, or self-esteem issues, that person can be especially vulnerable to just take this and run with it, for this to become a major lifestyle.
Is this a societal thing or is it a media thing? You know what I mean? Egg before the chicken, chicken before the egg. You know what I mean? Does the society dictate the media, or does the media dictate the society?
I think there's a lot of information that the media is dictating society,
Yeah.
but society's
Until
tolerating
we finally
it.
say we've had enough and we're going to end this. And
Until we say, shut up, skinny bitches.
There you go.
And
There you
I
go.
think it's not only that the media is targeting people, but then the health professionals have come in and they're making it like, yes, this is correct because it's for health.
Let's talk more about that with the media, because that's a huge thorn with me too, with the media, talking about it and discussing it. But let's talk a little bit more about that when we come back from Mental Health First Aid, and we'll be back in a minute.
Whatever we deny or embrace, for worse or for better, we belong together.
Underneath everything we are, underneath everything we do, we are all people, connected, interdependent, united. And when we reach out a hand to one, we can influence the condition of all. That's what it means to live united.
Big dreams and good grades aren't enough to get into college. There are actual steps you need to take. Finding someone who can help is the first and most important. For the next steps, go to knowhowtogo.org.
Ready. 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 Ready.
It can be a little awkward when your friend tells you he's been diagnosed with a mental illness. But what's even more awkward is, if you're not there for him, he's less likely to recover.
I'm here to help, man, whatever it takes.
Welcome back to Mental Health First Aid. We were discussing with Dr. Maria Rago about her book, Shut Up Skinny Bitches. And it was a discussion we ended with media and society. This really seems to be a societal driven thing with the weight and where we're going and stuff. I mean, you look back in the 30s and 40s and stuff, there wasn't, women looked healthy, they looked normal. You know, you see it in movies when you're watching movies and stuff. And now it's like they got to be sticks and almost skin and bones to be considered healthy. And it doesn't look healthy, but they believe that they have to look that way.
And it doesn't look healthy because the images are photoshopped as well for males and females. And since I can't Photoshop myself in the morning, before I go out, I'm not going to look like that.
Right. In fact, one of our actresses did that. I can't remember her name right now. But one of the actresses did that, and they showed herself with no makeup, no Photoshop, nothing, you know, and what she really
I know
looked
Jamie
like.
Lee Curtis did that.
That
yes,
was the one I was
and
thinking.
It was so refreshing to go, hey, you know, it's okay how
That's
I
a
look.
gutsy move,
Because
wasn't
yes, it was awesome that
Yeah,
she did that.
and you see now more of the people doing it, more of the talk show hosts and stuff, they'll bring out and talk about it and discuss it,
I
you
think
know?
Jamie Lee Curtis has a daughter. So I think she wanted to
some-
make sure her daughter wasn't feeling like, you know, I have to look this unrealistic way.
Right. You know, with Mental Health First Aid, we have 5 different areas that we talk about. And one of them is eating disorder, and obviously this fits in perfectly with that.
Of course.
But there's a lot of times where this stuff is like an onion. There's lots of layers. It's just not one thing they're having issues with. We talk about
Absolutely.
depression and anxiety. Does that fit into this?
Well, if you go on the eating disorders unit at the hospital, the vast majority of the patients with eating disorders also have a coexisting disorder, one or more. Anxiety disorders and depression are top on the list. Chemical dependency is also a common co-occurrence with eating disorders. With chemical dependency and eating disorders, it's 2 different ways to numb feelings out or to push away feelings
So
that are
self-medicating
difficult. And
type?
self-medicate and self-medicating of depression and anxiety.
Right.
People find when they're not allowed to use their eating disorder, like if they come in the hospital, they talk about having so many feelings come up that they haven't dealt with for a long time. And it's actually it's a painful time and it's a difficult time, but it's a freeing time because the outcome is you can come forward without worrying about food weight and body image. If I ask people with eating disorder, what % of your day do you spend thinking about food weight and body image? They might say 100%. They might say 99%. And that's the way you can look at eating disorders in our society because eating disorders are very invisible to the eye. Most people with eating disorders are not underweight. So they don't feel validated. They feel like, oh, I don't really have an eating disorder because I'm not underweight.
Because we're not just talking about really skinny people. You can talk about overweight people. You can talk about really skinny people. It's both ways.
Because if you're dealing with anorexia or bulimia or binge eating disorder.
Give me an example. Anorexia and bulimia. What's the difference? What's going on with that?
Well, I don't really believe they're necessarily such separate disorders. Many people that have one develop the other one over the course of a lifetime of an eating disorder. So they're both based on the drive to restrict, because sometimes people, they're restricting, but they just can't keep it up too long.
Are they interchangeable?
I don't know. I wouldn't say interchangeable, but if someone has one of the eating disorders and you follow them over time, they might get some symptoms under control, but then develop new ones until they fully resolve their drive to restrict food and their drive to binge on food. That when they can get that figured out, and really it's a matter of stability. What we do in the hospital is we help patients gain a stability, that their weight's not going up and down, their eating's not erratic, because all of this is bad for your health.
And to get them back to the so-called norm, it's really tough to do, isn't it? I mean, it's like a whole life change that they have to redo. We have something at Linden Oaks that they can help after the initial help, the Arabella House.
Yeah, I love the Arabella House.
Yeah, can you explain what that is?
Yeah, because we had a certain number of patients after they received inpatient and or day hospital care.
Just wasn't enough.
They still did not get better. So we decided to do some focus groups and study that. And what we found was that they were having trouble taking the skills from the hospital to home. So we developed a home where patients can, I guess they would be residents if they're there. They're not really patients anymore because they're living life, but
just
they're
an average
receiving
house.
treatment.
It's
a really cute little house with a view of the river in the back, and it's adorable. So
and they stay there for what, like up to a month, or?
They can stay up. They can stay from a few weeks up until a few months, because it does take a longer time to change your whole lifestyle of how you handle food and
So
how
you're
you
living
handle-
your normal life there, and then you get a little bit of help in the security to try to figure out how to make the meals and
Yes,
eat
you know what
properly
else I noticed? It's for highly motivated people. So the things with food and weight and working, you know, we work out, we do everything we're hoping for your lifestyle. But many people, many people at Arabella House, maybe they've relapsed a few times from their eating disorder.
Right.
They start maybe working on topics they haven't worked on before. Like I noticed that so many people are working on deeper issues. And if I say,
Right.
you know, oh, you've been in 6 treatments, have you ever worked on that before?
Something's
No, not
behind
this
it.
one, because they don't want to work on that one.
Right,
It's their least
right.
favorite.
Something's behind
so
it.
many people are working on issues that they haven't dealt with. And so it's an awesome process to see people. When people are recovered a year or more, they can come back and be a guest at the recovery night that we
Sort
do.
of get a booster,
And they
see what's
no,
going on,
they
or to
come
help out.
back and they give back to other people to show them full recovery is possible. Many people hear this weird phrase, once you have an eating disorder, you always have an
Right.
eating disorder, and that's not what we find. If you work on normal eating again and you make these changes and you resolve the underlying issues and you medicate or work with the
Right,
depression,
right.
anxiety, coexisting chemical dependency, you can have a wonderful life that's free of an eating
teaching
disorder.
is the ultimate in learning. So if you go into the Arabella House and help teach other people, that's the ultimate in learning for yourself too, I think.
Absolutely.
As you go through.
Can I say too, I want to make sure the audience knows that eating disorders have the highest mortality rate of any mental illness.
That surprised me. I learned that also through the mental health first aid classes and stuff, and I was surprised with that. Why is that so?
You know, Barry, there's 2 reasons. One are the medical complications of eating disorders that you can die from, and people would be surprised to know that the thinnest patients they don't have the highest death rate. It's the average weight and slightly overweight patients that have the highest death rate. I just want people to know that
Right,
because
right.
you know, we'll get calls from people that they're alarmed if someone's weight is really low. That may not be the only person you have to watch out
Right,
for. You have to watch
right.
out for the silent person that's, you know, having all kinds of
Yes, yes.
purging and restricting and binging issues, but they don't look sick.
Right. There's
And-
another group out there that can help also, and you're part of that.
ANAD.
Yeah.
And I also just want to mention, Barry, that suicide is a risk factor
Oh,
of
okay.
why they have a high mortality rate, because if people feel trapped and they feel like there's not a way out, then sometimes people give up, and
Right.
that is tragic for us because that is something that is totally avoidable. People need to understand that you don't give up, that you try again. It's okay if it takes a longer time
Right.
than what you expect
Right.
or what you think it's supposed to. You can't put a time frame on it. You don't know how
The
long it's going
expectations
to
are
take.
they put too high themselves, and you got to bring that down to the normal level. Your book talks about that all the time too. You know, don't overdo yourself. Don't expect to be up here when you just start low. Start small and work from there.
Absolutely, and ANAD, which is anorexia nervosa and associated disorders. People can call ANAD anytime for free. They can email them and find out where free support groups are in their area. And this is wonderful because patients, or not patients, but people with eating disorders can get out of isolation that maybe they would give up, maybe they don't have ideas what
Right.
to do. You can come and connect with other people, find out treatment resources, find out, you know, things that you can do and get re-energized for recovery.
Right.
Because recovery is possible for everyone at every age.
We have just scratched the surface here. There's so much more I want to talk about and bring up and stuff, but we only have the half hour. But maybe we can have you come back on again and we can
Oh,
discuss
thank
this
you.
and,
It's been
and talk
awesome
about it more.
talking to you.
It's
I
been
appreciate
great.
it.
Dr. Maria Rago, we appreciate you being on here, and your book, Shut Up Skinny Bitches, really got my attention.
Thank
and,
you.
and reading it. And you know what? It was close to me also because of the eating that I'm looking at now too. And it gets me to look at it and says, hey, relax, Francis, you know, settle down. You know, it just get back down to and understand these things and be more comfortable with it. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we want to thank you for listening. This has been Mental Health First Aid, and we give a lot of different information, a lot of different on anxiety, depression, and psychosis, on eating disorders and chemical dependency. We're going to talk about these things over and over again, and we're going to be back next month with another show, and we hope you'll be there with us. Thanks for watching.